Welcome back to our news bulletin. New Zealand has become the first country to turn coronavirus free with no new cases reported and no active cases. Meanwhile, in Brazil, 1,382 more people died from COVID-19 as the death toll crossed 37,000. The US has recorded 722 deaths overnight, taking the tally to over 110,000. The global death toll from the coronavirus has exceeded 402,000, with confirmed cases over 7 million. Further details in this report.
When the world is struggling to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, New Zealand has become virus-free. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has announced to lift the country's remaining virus restrictions at midnight. Meanwhile, Americas are still the hardest hit region of the world, with death tolls jumping every day. But the New York state is set to emerge from its long coronavirus lockdown today. In the UK, Health Minister Matt Hancock says the anti-racism protests attended by the thousands of people are increasing the risk of virus spread.
The virus itself doesn't discriminate, and gathering in large groups is temporarily against the rules precisely because it increases the risk of the spread of this virus. So I would urge people to make their argument, and I will support you in making that argument, but please don't spread this virus, which has already done so much damage and which we're starting to get under control.
Elsewhere in Asia, restrictions are also being relaxed in Indonesia and India. China says it will further strengthen the country's public health system to enhance its capacity of response to public health emergencies.
First, we will further improve the input mechanism for public health, improve the basic conditions for disease prevention and control, and further strengthen and improve public health services. Second, we will have a more specific mandate for the functions of disease control centers at different levels.
In South Korea, new cases have slowed, but concerns remain over a second wave of the outbreak as the country enters its final phase of reopening schools.
Pakistan has become the 16th country to have reported over 100,000 confirmed coronavirus cases. The health ministry says over the past 24 hours, 65 people lost their lives, bringing the total number of deaths to 2,067. With 4,728 fresh cases reported, the tally of confirmed patients now stands at 103,671. The ministry said over 34,000 patients of coronavirus have recovered so far. In their fresh act of state terrorism, Indian troops have martyred 4 more Kashmiris in Shopian district. This takes the death toll to 9 in the past 24 hours. The occupying forces killed the civilians in a coordinated search operation in Pinjura area of the district. 5 youth were martyred by the troops in the same area yesterday. The authorities also suspended all mobile internet services in the district during the operation. The Taliban have met US Special Envoy for Afghanistan Zalmay Khalilzad and NATO Forces Commander General Austin Scott Miller in Doha. The group spokesperson Sohail Shaheen said their leader Mullah Baradar Khund discussed the prisoners' release and intra-Afghan talks. Shaheen said the Qatari delegation led by Mutlaq al-Khatani also participated. Earlier, Khalilzad called on Pakistan's Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa. The two spoke of matters relating to national security, Afghan refugees and border security. Khalilzad is visiting Doha, Islamabad and Kabul as part of efforts to bring peace in Afghanistan. In the U.S., the Minneapolis City Council has pledged to dismantle the local police department following the custodial killing of George Floyd. Council President Lisa Bender says the body aims to come up with a new community-led model of public safety. Bender said it is clear that the existing system of policing and public safety is not keeping communities safe. The protests demanding an end to systemic racism have spread globally, in addition to all 50 U.S. states. In Brazil, thousands attended a protest where incidents of looting luxury stores were reported. In the UK, the statue of a 17th century slave trader in Bristol was thrown into the harbour during the second day of anti-racism protests. But the British Interior Minister called on protests to be stopped following violent clashes in London.
Well, I think, first of all, when it came to what happened yesterday in London on Whitehall with the protesters, I'm absolutely sickened and appalled by the level of violence that was on display. Police officers were abused and police officers were injured, and we have a police officer that is seriously injured and in hospital right now, and that is absolutely unacceptable.
Meanwhile, in Madrid, some 3,000 protesters observed a minute's silence for Floyd and other victims of police brutality and institutional racism. Now going to Iran, whose foreign minister says Tehran is ready for further prisoner exchange with the United States. In an interview, spokesperson Abbas Mousavi praised Switzerland's efforts in a recent swap of inmates. He said there were no direct talks between Tehran and Washington. Last Thursday, a U.S. Navy veteran was freed as part of a deal in which the U.S. allowed an Iranian physician to visit Iran. Mousavi also said that Washington can return to the 2015 nuclear deal. He added that Tehran never left the negotiating table. Forces of the Government of National Accord and Libyan National Army are engaged in fierce fighting for the strategic city of Sirte. After ceding Tripoli, Khalifa Haftar's LNA has launched a barrage of airstrikes to defend the town, known for its loyalty to the slain Muammar Gaddafi. The LNA has claimed to destroy the UN-recognized government's artillery company in an air attack. Haftar's forces said the strikes hit 2 GNA tanks and 6 armed vehicles. The Eastern Army claimed numerous Turkish and Syrian mercenaries were killed in the raids. Meanwhile, the GNA says it has retaken key towns around Sirte as its forces battle on to free the east from Haftar's forces. Tensions in the region are high since GNA announced full control of the capital Tripoli last week. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will not approve the establishment of a Palestinian state as part of the annexation plan. In an interview, Netanyahu said the plan for West Bank will be implemented within a few weeks. Netanyahu said the mapping process for annexation has not been completed yet. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Hamas movement has warned that Israel's takeover will spark a massive uprising. In a statement, Hamas said no power can change Jerusalem's position from being the Palestinian city and capital. Israel is expected to annex parts of the occupied West Bank, Jordan Valley, and East Jerusalem from July 1st. In Hong Kong, dozens of people gathered in front of the U.S. consulate to protest the custodial killing of George Floyd. The protesters stood in pouring rain, holding photos of Floyd and signs in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. The demonstrators said Hong Kong has been fighting police brutality, and the same thing is happening across the U.S. Police kept reminding demonstrators of the limit of 8 people per gathering, a rule put in place to contain coronavirus in the city. The protesters left peacefully after reading a speech to the Consul General condemning police brutality and racism. The Black Lives Matter movement against racial injustice has gone global amid the pandemic since Floyd's death on 25th May. Turkish security forces say they have killed 4 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in northern Iraq. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said the terrorists were killed in an air-backed anti-terror operation in the Avasin region. The ministry said the operation against the militants will continue. Ankara holds a fighter group responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year conflict. In China, tourism is helping lift people in the cliff-top village of Atelier in southwest Sichuan province out of poverty. Let's find out how in this report.
Atelier is a famous cliff village sitting high among the mountains in Lingshanji Autonomous Prefecture's Zhejiang County. Due to its isolated location, perched like the seat of a chair with near vertical cliffs both above and below, villagers must use a series of handmade ladders to scale the 800-meter high cliff.
When we were at school, we had to walk about 18 kilometers. We left home early and it would turn dark when we arrived at school. It was very dangerous.
The lack of access to the outside had stagnated the local economy. Life in the village gained nationwide attention in 2016 when a Chinese newspaper published a collection of photos. In August 2016, the local government spent 1 million yuan to add a steel ladder with a handrail.
After we built the steel ladder, we had access to water, electricity, and the internet. Many young people started to play on their phones, browse WeChat moments, and watch live streams online. The relationship with the outside world is getting closer. Our villagers can walk outside, and tourists from outside can also come in.
On May 14, some 80 households from Atelier moved to their new homes in the county seat. It is part of a massive relocation project in Zaoji as China aims to eradicate poverty by the end of the year. Meanwhile, the construction of 7 schools and 3 hospitals around the relocation site is underway.
6 Swiss tourist destinations and the Principality of Liechtenstein are opening a property-free hotel this summer. Visitors can book hotel suites without walls and roof and experience the diversity of the region under the stars. More in this report.
Created by twin brothers Frank and Patrick Ricklin and partner Daniel Charbonnier, the Zero Real Estate project aims to explore traditional approaches to hospitality.
The idea is that with Zero Real Estate, we make others the performers by performing the concept of real estate without hotel rooms.
A night in the double room costs more than $300, including services of a white-gloved modern butler, often a local farmer in jeans and Wellington boots.
I think the reality of coronavirus plays into this concept. The room without a wall and roof also shows a kind of liberation. There is probably no other place to enjoy a better ventilated room than this during the summer in Switzerland.
Bookings have already started for the 7 suites, which open from July 1st.
We're now taking a short break, but stay tuned for more news. Japan's economy contracted at an annualized of 2.2% in the first quarter of 2020, entering a technical recession. The revised figure was less than the 3.4% contraction in a preliminary estimate by the Cabinet Office showed. The revised data shows that private consumption declined 0.8% from the previous quarter, compared with an initial estimate of a 0.7% fall, but capital investment rose by 1.9%, stronger than the initial estimate of a 0.5% decrease. The export-dependent economy contracted at an annual rate of over 7% in the last quarter of 2019. Japan's economy was affected by the fallout of COVID-19, but it was already stagnant in recent years due to a trade conflict between US and China. Asian stock markets have gained steam after US jobs data showed an unexpected jump. This spurred hopes of an economic recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. Nikkei 225 has gained over 1% as shares of robotics giant Fanuc gained nearly 3%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is trading fractionally higher. Shanghai Composite is trading marginally higher. Seoul's Kospi hovered around the flat line. Meanwhile, international benchmark Brent crude price has gained over 1.5%. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.